Now, Luffy vs. Kaido is about to hit a peak like no other. It's almost as if everything that came before this was a prelude, because this next Luffy vs. Kaido battle that we're going to get is going to be absolutely insane in terms of power. I think most people were of the mindset that Conqueror's coding was the end-all be-all of the series, and while it is a very powerful ability, there's just so much more when it comes to One Piece and different powers and different abilities that you can use, and I feel like Luffy and both Kaido have not tapped into those aspects yet. So I think what we're going to be seeing moving forward is going to be the full power of Luffy versus the full power of Kaido at their utmost limits. Not with Luffy, it's more so of him awakening a newfound ability and transcending his current level, and with Kaido, even though he seems like he was putting everything in the last couple of chapters, I feel like he was holding some powers that we're not aware of yet, and I'll elaborate more on that later in this video. The final battle between Luffy versus Kaido is going to break the internet and will be a battle on an unprecedented scale that we have never seen in the series. But as usual, I would appreciate it if you drop the like on this video, hit the bell if you want to get notified for more content, and subscribe if you're new here. Now, coming off of the previous chapter, I think it's very obvious that even though Luffy's defeated here as of right now, he always comes back much stronger. And in this arc in particular, the main power-ups that he's had so far has been Haki upgrades, specifically in the areas of Armament Haki and Conquerors. Advanced Armament was something that he learned while he was in Udon, and Advanced Conquerors was on the rooftop after taking a hit from Kaido's Conquerors coding. But so far, no mention of Awakening when it comes to Luffy. And so because of that, a lot of people, and myself included, are of the mindset that Luffy's next power-up will most likely revolve around his Devil Fruit ability. It could also be Haki as well, because there are some few other elements that we do know that are still very vague. The unconscious Haki, voice of all things, there's many things that you can take into account here, but Luffy's Devil Fruit ability is something that is kind of holding him back right now. Let's be honest, Haki is literally carrying Luffy as of right now. His Devil Fruit by itself isn't putting as much work as his Haki does. So his Devil Fruit is the one ability that he has that has no sort of upgrades yet. And so I feel like Awakening is the most likely thing to happen, especially considering the context of several things that has been mentioned in this arc. Initially, it started out with Who's Who mentioning that he was the one protecting Luffy's fruit. Then we heard about the Sun God Nika, and finally we heard about the Gorosei talking about a Devil Fruit ability whose name has been hidden away from history. There's just a lot of context about Luffy's Devil Fruit playing a role here, and you can't really turn a blind eye as to what has been mentioned so far. And so with Luffy, Devil Fruit Awakening seems to be very plausible at this point. Now, as to what Luffy's Awakening is, we don't know. Now, even though we've got the standard definition of what some Paramecia Awakenings look like, in which they are able to affect the environment, that might not necessarily be the case for Luffy, because the Paramecia class is the most diverse class of Devil Fruit abilities, in which they come in all different shapes and forms. So Awakening for some types might be the same depending on how those abilities work from a base standpoint. It makes sense as to why Katakuri and Doflamingo have the same Awakening, because their abilities at a base level functions very similarly. But for some Paramecias, it could be very different. And a very good example of this is Law's Awakening, in which he doesn't necessarily affect his surroundings, but he does have new skill sets that he didn't have before. So in some cases, Awakening is a literal upgrade to your ability, and this could be the same case for Luffy here, or it could be something entirely different, because again, Luffy's fruit is different from Law's fruit, so we'll have to wait and see. And something that I've noticed recently with Law and Kid is that Awakening isn't complete mastery. Now, it does take you some level or skill to get there, but once you do get there, it's not the end-all be-all of your Devil Fruit ability. Awakening, from what we know, seems to be a stage of its own, in which you can hone your Awakening to be even better. Just achieving Awakening by itself isn't enough. We obviously saw that Kid and Law were having problems with their Awakening because they're not used to it yet, but of course, with time and practice, they will be able to do much more, and that will be the case for Luffy as well. It's very interesting because the Paramecia class is the one Devil Fruit class in which creativity is very essential in maximizing your ability. The Rubber Fruit doesn't come with Gear 2nd and Gear 3rd or Gear 4th. These are abilities that Luffy himself made, so he had to create this abilities in order for his fruit to become powerful, because by itself the Rubber Fruit isn't exactly great, right? It's because of Luffy's creativity and battle sense that he's able to make this fruit a lot more powerful. And so when it comes to the awakenings of Paramecia, I think the same thing will probably apply here, in which creativity is going to play a huge role into making your ability or your awakening much stronger. And so when Luffy does awaken, I don't expect him to have a full grasp of the maximum potential that he can get from his ability. I think that would easily come with time and practice. But of course, with his battle with Kaido still in the making, it will definitely push him to use his abilities in a better way, even during the fight, and thus that will elevate Luffy to a new level in which Luffy would essentially be the perfect fighter. Luffy would have his Devil Fruit ability awakened, his Armament Haki be advanced, his Conquerors is advanced, his Observation is advanced. It doesn't get any better than that. He would pretty much max out all his abilities to the highest potential. And so when you take all these things into account, it just makes him incredibly powerful. And of course, with him having all these abilities at the advanced levels, his next goal would be to find out what he can do to make these abilities work in tandem. The more Luffy has at his disposal, the more things that he can do. So when Luffy does return to fight Kaido, I expect Kaido to get steamrolled in the initial stages of the fight, just like Luffy does with most villains when he obtains a new power. It took Luffy 3 power-ups to finally match Kaido, but I think this final one here is going to be the key to defeating Kaido, and would essentially solidify him as a top tier character in the series. And talking about Kaido here, I do think that once he gets steamrolled by Luffy's new power, I feel like he would have no choice but to awaken. Now again, we don't know if Kaido's awakened, but I think Kaido has one more form that he hasn't shown us yet, and that is the awakening of a mythical Devil Fruit ability. I think Oda definitely owes us at least one awakened character in this arc on the opposing side. None of the Flying Six were awakened, none of the Calamities were awakened. At the very least, Kaido has to be awakened, or that would be a massive disappointment, especially considering his portrayal in the series as the strongest character in One Piece, right? You have to have awakening. So I think Kaido will be that one character within the Beast Pirates to have awakening. Now, mythicals don't follow the usual schemes that regular Zoans do, so I don't think we should expect the same awakening. Now, he might have the normal recovery and the physical augmentations that awakened Zoans have, but I think there's probably going to be something on top of that as well, given that mythical Zoans have other abilities as well. Kaido's elemental abilities may also get awakened here as well, so perhaps he would have more control over his lightning, the Boro Blast, the weather, storms, etc. So I do see Kaido using his awakening to match Luffy's new power, and this would turn into a battle like no other. I think this would actually make the battle that we've seen so far look pale in comparison. So while I do have high expectations for Luffy's new power, I do also have high expectations for Kaido to match that power as well. So yeah, these next coming chapters are going to be phenomenal, and we do have Kaido's flashback in the works as well, and I think that would most likely happen before he's about to get defeated, or it could even happen before that, depending on how things go. And with Luffy, there is most likely going to be a lot of lore surrounding him as well. Joy Boy, the Sun God, Nika. We might get some answers as to what role these individuals played in history, and who they actually are, and if they actually existed. It would seem that Kaido knows a lot, so we might get a lot of that information there. But that is pretty much it for this video, guys. I would appreciate it if you dropped a like on this video, comment down below what you guys think, hit the bell if you want to get notified for future content, and subscribe for more One Piece. You can follow me on Twitter at Ferrospace, but it is Ferro, guys, and I will see you folks later. Peace!